officially good morning and welcome. This is going to be largely gentle yoga with a little bit of a restorative yoga flavor. So I've got some props arrayed around me. I've got 2 pillows. I've got a couple of yoga blocks. I've also got some blankets. If you have bolsters or fancier yoga props or a couple of couch cushions, all of that stuff would do. So I'm going to set myself up with a butterfly pose that creates both a chest opener as well as some support for the legs. So I'm going to use my blocks and a blanket to create that setup. So one block is going to go underneath my shoulder blades, and I've put a little blanket under my yoga mat just to elevate it a little bit. So I've got one block just on the edge of that blanket. That's going to go under my shoulder blades, and then I'm going to set this block under my head. And then over the whole of that, I'm going to put a folded blanket. This just makes it a little softer on the edges, okay? But I can still use relatively simple props to set myself up. And then I'm going to use these throw pillows under my knees. So the first part you have to do is get yourself onto the props. So I want this block to start just about an inch or so below my shoulder blades. So if I stick my shoulder blades out behind me, I can feel where the tip of that is, and then I just want to make sure the block is a little lower than that. And then I'm going to take these 2 little throw pillows and just kind of angle them so that when my legs are in butterfly, they have something to rest on. And you can pull the pillows farther away for more intensity or in for less. I've got a clip in my hair, so I'm going to take that out first. And then I'm going to adjust this block under my head so that it feels like it's in the right spot. Okay, so then I take a couple moments just to snuggle in, make sure I like the position I've got myself in. Sometimes it takes a little nudge to get it just right. Now, for today, my left arm rests pretty nicely on the floor. My right arm is floating just a little bit. So because it's floating just a little bit, I'm going to pull a little bit of this, if I can, a little bit of this blanket that I've got over here and just let that rest under my elbow. My right shoulder has a little scar tissue in it from an old injury. It takes a little longer to open up and let my arm bones get heavy. The good news is we're going to stay for a bit. So, take a deep breath, let go within, and let yourself settle into place. Now, if things are too spicy, if your inner thigh is stretching too much, add more support. If you don't feel anything, but you kind of want that little tiny bit, we're mostly going for relaxation this morning, but you can certainly give yourself a little extra sensation if it feels okay to you. Now, because I have a lot of tension, and I slept really weird last night, but in any case, this right side has a lot more tension in it. I'm going to turn my head to the left and allow these muscles through the neck and the front of the shoulder to let go a little bit more as we hang out with this pose for a few minutes. It won't take long for me to want to turn my head, but about a minute or 2 feels really nice to do this a little bit of extra. So I'm bringing my head back around to the center and seeing if there's a difference. And there is. There's a little slightly more heaviness, a little slightly more soft feeling around that shoulder for me. So the goal of restorative yoga poses are to allow the body to more deeply relax. And so if we add a little bit of spice at the beginning, we might do that in service to helping the body let go. So ultimately what we're looking for is a pose and a setup of a pose that does not start to create its own tension or make us hold on or grip to hang out in the pose. So if your low back starts to feel like you need more support under your sacrum, put a little blanket underneath your hips. If your shoulders start to feel like they need a little different support, change it up. We're going to stay for about 4 more minutes or so, just allowing the body to release here. Allow the mind to steady with the breath. Just watch the breath come and go. Stay for about another minute here. It's our last little bit. If it's starting to get a little too spicy around your inner thighs, you could certainly straighten out the legs. If you want to take whatever's under your back out, you can do that and then just rest on the floor. Just hang out with me for a little bit longer. All right, yogis, we're going to take a nice deep breath. We'll let go with a really big ah. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring my knees together and straighten my legs out. And then once I'm there, I'm going to give them a little jiggle. Now if you'd like to leave them bent and just windshield wiper them back and forth, you can do that as well. And then pause for a moment, just feel the sensations in the legs and the hips. Try to notice if there's any numbness or tingling, any heat, or anything that feels sore. So when we feel those sensations in the practice, it's usually because we didn't have enough support, or maybe we just didn't realize how intense it was until we came out of it. That's definitely happened to me. So now we're going to take the stuff out from under our back. So I'm going to roll over to the side. I'm going to slide out this block under my head, and then because I'm on a blanket, I have to take that guy out first, And then get to this other block. Okay. Now roll back onto your back when you're done with that and notice the upper back, the shoulders. Oh. Now generally for me this is a very pleasant experience. Everything feels like it kind of spreads out wide, almost like my upper back is a giant prairie kind of stretching out to the horizon line. Oh, it's delightful. So this may or may not be true for you. And again, how you feel when you come out of a yoga pose is information so that you can guide yourself through your practice as time goes on. Because when things feel crummy, I don't generally want to do them again. And so maybe that's true for you as well. All right, so we're going to give our upper back just a little bit of a rest. It's not much of a rest, but just a little bit. And we're going to take the legs over into a twist. Now, it is going to pull on one side, right? So I might want some props. So have your blanket, your pillows, your whatever you've got handy. So there's a couple ways to get into a twist. You can just let your legs fall over to the side. If you have some low back tenderness, a way to get into it that's a little bit more supported, but this has its own trickiness, is to lift the hips, put yourself on the muscly big portion on the outside of your hip, and then allow the legs to fall over, okay? That involves you having to hoist your pelvis up off the ground, and that has its own potential difficulty. Now, with the legs resting on top of each other, do your shoulders mostly stay on the floor? And if the answer to that is yes, you could stay right here. If your shoulder comes up off the floor, then you might want to put some support under this side. So you could take a throw pillow, for example, and put that underneath your legs. And then your legs can rest on the pillow and your shoulder stays on the floor. Now, the way I like to do this is I like to use the pillow and then take the top leg and drop it over. So there's a little bit more tug, but I still have my shoulder resting very comfortably on the ground. Okay. So you can turn your head towards the legs that you're, the side that you're twisting toward. You can keep your head in the middle, or you can turn your head the opposite way. My preference usually is to go with the legs. Every now and then that shifts. And then we're going to just let ourselves get heavy for a few moments here. So for me, there's a little bit of spicy sensation in this outer hip, and then through the pectoralis muscle on the chest, right? Those are my spiciest places. If you feel discomfort in your low back, definitely add more support. We're just letting the body kind of sink in and get heavy. We're going to stay for about another minute. Okay, so we're going to take another nice deep breath here. Let go with a really big sigh. Draw the sides of the waist in a bit, and then bring that top leg all the way back, letting your pelvis settle back onto the floor. You might have to do a little snuggling, and then you can release the shoulders, windshield wiper the legs. And then this is really fun to me. So stretch your legs out and let your arms rest beside you, and see if you can feel a difference between the side that was on the top and the side that was on the bottom in that twist in terms of the legs and the hips. So for me, sometimes that side that was on the top feels a little longer. There's a lot of these poses that sort of release tension from the body, and usually for me the way that translates in terms of sensation is longer or softer or closer to the ground. So it'll be fun for you to check it out as well, I think. All right, so we're going to take the legs the other way for the twist. So either picking them up and dropping them over, or picking up your pelvis and letting your legs settle more softly. And again, this for me is the side that's a little bit more intense, so I am kind of using these props a little bit more up, a little closer up toward my hip, so that I'm not pulling as much here. And take a nice big breath and then exhale and let yourself settle in. So we're going to stay for about another 45 seconds. It's about 6 big breaths. I love the way it feels to breathe in a twist. There's kind of different, sort of, one side's a little more expansive than the other. It almost feels like one side pulls down and one side pulls up. It's just really interesting. So you're going to take one more really big breath. Let go and really hug in through the sides of the waist. Provide a little bit of structure and support, and then bring your knee back. Okay, so for the moment, shaking out through the arms, shaking out through the legs. Oh. So we're going to do a little kind of return to this notion with a little bit of core work, right? So we're going to pick the knees up and hover them about over the top rim of the pelvis, over the belly button, somewhere in that kind of general range. And then the arms are going to go out to form a T. You can put the palms down if you want, or you can press your upper arms down if that's helpful. So we're going to take the legs over just a little bit, like, about halfway or 2/3 of the way towards the floor, and then you're going to hug your knees into your chest, and then come back to the height of your belly button, come all the way across to the other side, and hug the knees in towards the chest. Now, if this bothers your low back, only go a tiny amount, right? It doesn't have to be 2/3 of the way. It can be 1/4 of the way. So finding the right amount of intensity. If your shoulder pops up off the floor, that's too far. So trying to use the abdominal muscles both to move the body back and forth, but also to hold us steady. And as I do this, I tend to drift down my mat, and sometimes even I will drift down my mat as much as a foot. So this is always fun. Okay, coming back and around, giving ourselves a little hug in. We're going to do it twice more. A little hug in. A little hug in. I might even go off frame. A little hug in. And then one more time. A little hug in. And when you get to the middle, you're going to pause right there. So I'm going to back myself back up because I drifted all the way down my mat and I can't reach my strap. Now, if you have a yoga strap handy, grab that. If you do not have a yoga strap handy, you can hold onto your leg or use a blanket or use a towel, whatever you've got. Okay. Yoga straps are nice because they're really sturdy. Like if you it's really hard to break them, generally speaking. I haven't tried to break any of the ones I've seen in the $3 aisle, but or whatever. But generally I haven't been able to break any of them. And they're long, generally, anywhere between 6 feet, and in this case, I think this is a 10 or an 8-foot strap. In any case, they're long enough. Now, another great tool, if you don't have a yoga strap but you do have a dog, is to use a dog leash. Because dog leashes have generally a handle on the end that's a loop, and you can put your foot into the loopy end and hold the other end. And they're sturdy and strong because, you don't want your dog to escape. And so they make great yoga props too. So if you have an extra dog leash or it just happens to be close enough by that you can use it. Now we don't need it right away, but we are going to use it in a second. So have it handy, put it next to you. Now I'm gonna leave one leg relaxed, and for that leg I'm gonna take a throw pillow, and I'm gonna put that guy under my relaxed leg, and then I'm gonna keep this other throw pillow handy in case I decide I want it. Okay, and we'll get to that in a second. So first what we're gonna do is the leg that I'm gonna work with, I'm gonna bring that leg in. In this case it's my right leg. So I'm gonna hold onto my right leg, and if you can't hold onto your right leg with both hands, but you can hold on with one hand, that'll work. You can use your strap around your thigh and hold on that way. Or you can even, if you're wearing pants, you can hold onto your pants and do it that way. Or you just leave your leg hanging out in the air. It's gonna be fine. So you're gonna spin your foot in circle shapes, elliptical shapes. Maybe they're not even a circle. So you're getting to the ankle joint and all the little muscles that connect the ankle, the calves, and the muscles of the foot. So I do some circles kind of slow and some circles a little faster and peppier. And then go the other direction, same idea. I like to try to get all of the edges of my range of motion to see how far around I can move the foot in each of the various kind of ways that my ankle joint moves. And then point and flex. The ankle joint's a pretty cool joint. The bones kind of slide around on each other. As we age, sometimes the synovial fluid that kind of lives in the little spaces between those bones gets a little a little less. So I think these little circles, anything that encourages some mobility in the ankle is good. Okay. So then we're going to hug this leg in, and we're going to do a little rock the baby. So I'm going to grab my foot with my opposite hand. So my left hand's on my right foot, and I'm going to put my right hand on my thigh. Now what you want to be mindful of is if you're torquing, if this lower leg bone is torquing towards you and you feel discomfort in your knee, let go of your foot, okay? And just hold on to the thigh itself so you can rock your baby that way. If your thigh bone will rotate all the way around, enough for you to grab your foot without any trouble, do that. Flex your foot to protect your knee joint, and then we're just gonna rock that baby back and forth. So I'm going towards the ground and away from the ground. Towards the ground, away from the ground. Okay? Okay, so then I'm just gonna grab hold of this foot with my right hand, and leaving my knee joint bent, I'm gonna let my arm get heavy. Now I like to pull myself all the way to the floor and then use this as an opportunity to stretch out my left side real quick. Oh, because I like that sensation. Okay, so then I'm going to put my left side back down where it was, and I'm going to let go of my foot, and I'm going to take the strap and wrap it around. Now, here's the thing. Oh, if you like, you can hold the loop, right? If you have a big enough loop, or you've got like an infinity scarf that is sturdy enough to use this way, you could put your hand through the loop like that. And that's a little bit easier way to hold. If you've got arthritis in your hand, straps with loops are very helpful. If your loop is too far away, you can hold onto the bottom of the strap. It will be, whichever kind of way that you can hold it. You can also, just for the bottom of the strap, if you wrap it around your arm once or twice, and then let your hand kind of rest on the strap, but you can also hold it that way so that the wrist is kind of giving you a little extra support. Okay. So I'm just playing with my hip position here. So I took my thumb and I'm sticking it right into the little crease of my hip and just pushing my hip down a little bit away from me so that I can see if I like that positioning a little bit better. It makes my low back feel a little more neutral. Sometimes we pick our back up off the floor when we do these poses, so that's something to notice. Not necessarily wrong, it's just, may not be helpful. You can bend the knee and straighten the leg back out. We're going to stay for about 30 more seconds. You can rotate the leg a little bit, pull your toes down, push up on your heel. I like to explore yoga poses unless, there's a reason that I want to maintain stillness. If I'm feeling really fidgety, it might be better to be still for a bit. So we're going to take a nice big breath. And then we're going to let this leg drop out to the side. Now this is where this extra throw pillow or a yoga block might come in handy, because Sometimes the inner thigh is a little sensitive. So if you take a pillow and put it underneath the edge of your hip, or a block and put it under the edge of the hip, it gives your leg something to rest on. And again, while here you could bend at the knee and straighten it. You could pull the toes back, push them out. You could rotate the leg a little in or a little out to see how that works for you. I don't have the same range of motion in my thigh hip socket as much as I do in some of the other shapes. Some shapes provide me with a lot more range of movement, right? I can rotate my leg quite a lot in or out, and others not so much. So for you, the range of motion might be more limited or less here. Okay, so we're going to take a nice big breath. We're going to come on back to the center. Okay, now we're going to take the leg across, but we're going to try to leave the hip on the floor, okay? So rather than come back to the twist, which we've done, we're just going to concentrate on this outer part of the thigh. And again, you could rotate a little bit this way, you could rotate a little bit that way. If you like, you could kind of press that hip down a little bit and really rotate the leg. So you're just kind of looking for, where do I feel this kind of outer thigh, outer hip sensation? Now if you want to go over into the twist, you can. I'm just, staying right with this. So I'm holding myself a little more centered, a little more steady, and allowing the sensation to just be on this outer thigh. Now for me, this is an area that tends to open quite easily. So as I'm holding it, I'm getting a little less sensation. It's getting a little softer feeling. So I can take myself, just let the leg fall a little bit more without really lifting too much off the floor with my hip. That may or may not be true for you. The amount of crossover of your body you can bring your leg is also one of those range of motion tricky bits. So we've got just shy of 30 more seconds here, y'all. Take a nice deep breaths. So take a nice big inhale. And exhale, we're going to come on back to the center. And you could release that leg. Give it a little shimmy. Now, do this if you can. If this doesn't bother you, leave your leg straight up and shake it in the air. And shake it so that it's like as best you can, let your toes get kind of flippy flappy. One more. Okay, so with your exhale then, let your leg come on back down to the ground. Give it some little movement. I'm going to take this pillow out from under my left side, and I'm going to stretch out both legs. And again, I'm very curious about how it makes me feel. Like, do I feel any discomfort in my low back? Does the leg feel different, longer, softer, grouchier? Just noticing. Not really judging per se, but noticing so that you can learn. Oh. Now for me it feels really amazing. So I'm definitely inclined to do the other side. So if you're on the same page with me, I'm going to put this throw pillow under this side, and then this leg over here, I'm going to take it to my hands. Oh. And hanging onto it, or using the strap or your clothes or whatever you got, you're going to spin your foot. And again, just like try to put all of your attention and awareness on that ankle joint, and just noticing the difference between like a faster, smoother circle and a really big, try to get to the edges circle. And maybe some in between. And then when you're ready, switch directions. point and flex your foot. And I like to spread the toes out and then squish them together, so I'm getting a little bit of movement in the upper part of the foot as well. Lower part of the foot, whatever part's closest to the toes. In this case, it's upper, because I'm laying on the back here. Okay. So then I'm going to hug my leg in, and again, if I can, I'm going to grab, without causing trouble, without torquing the knee joint, I'm going to put one hand on my knee, one hand on my foot. So again, this depends a little bit on how your leg will rotate outward. So if your leg doesn't rotate outward that much, definitely don't hold on to the foot, because we're not trying to create trouble for the knee. Flexing your foot helps. And then we're just going to rock it back and forth, so towards the floor and away from the floor. Oh, and then I'm going to grab hold of it with my left hand. I'm going to bring that knee as far down as I need to get my right side nice and lifted. And then I'm going to stretch into my right side. I like to do kind of a banana stretch and then swing it back outside. And then let my body return to the floor, readjust, make sure everything's good, soft. And then I'm going to take the strap to this leg. Okay. So then extending the leg out and finding out how much strap do I want? Can I let this side relax? So I need to give myself a little more room, that kind of thing. Okay. And again, you can add all these little kind of little bits between pressing the heel up or pressing the toes up or rotating the leg a little bit. Bending the knee and re-straightening the leg is really fun. Especially pushing up through the heel, because for me my hamstrings are not as tight, but my calf muscles, holy moly, they're pretty snug. So giving them a chance to really stretch feels so nice. My other best friend for my calf muscles pose is downward facing dog, and so between these two, it's really lovely. All right, you guys, we got 2 more breaths with this shape. And then we're going to go out to the side, and I've got a piece of furniture here, so I'm going to pause right on the edge of that furniture, and hopefully I won't knock any of the little rocks off. I have a rather extensive collection of rocks. When I travel places, often rock has come home with me, which probably isn't the best notion, because if everybody does that, then where are all the rocks going to be? But in any case, I've definitely traveled into wilderness places and brought home rocks. I will own up to that. And then I also have lots of the mineral kind of rocks, because I like them. When I think I was in the 5th grade, or maybe the 6th grade, I found a deer skull and took it to school because we were talking about bones, and I thought my school teacher would be really into it. Looking back on it, I'm not sure that all of her body language expressed enthusiasm, but she definitely encouraged me to continue to be curious about science. So, did you ever play scripts back in your head about and realize things were different than you thought? In any case, I'm coming back to the yoga now, y'all. Coming back from story time. So what I'm doing right now, because we're just got a few more breaths here, is I'm just anchoring a little bit through the sides of my waist, kind of using my abs to help hold me. So I'm going to take a nice big breath. And then with the exhale, we're going to bring the leg back to the center. So that little bit of extra structure helps, kind of helped me anyway, get myself here. And then again, I'm just letting the leg come just far enough across that I feel this kind of IT band and this upper part of my glute, which this is what's called gluteus medius. And it's really, I'm going to roll so you can see, but it's right up here on the top, right? So we usually think about our glutes as being what we sit on. That is true. That is a glute. But we have other glutes that live up here. 2 of them, actually. Glute medius and glute minimus. And so that is part of the stabilizing force that kind of helps keep our hips stable as we're moving through space. And so kind of giving that a little bit of love, or kind of feeling the attention you might be getting from that. Now the glute major, this big glute maximus, that muscle actually connects into your IT band. And so if when you're stretching the side of the thigh here, you could also feel it in your bum, that wouldn't be abnormal, right? Because the fibers, the end fibers of the gluteus maximus fold, kind of come at a diagonal a little bit, which makes the little lip of our bum, and then that sort of diagonal patterning runs right into this IT band. And so you could feel this not just on the thigh, but in lots of places because of the way the body is woven together through the connective tissue. I think it's, again, I'm coming back to that science, I think it's pretty cool. Okay, guys, so we're going to take 2 more big breaths here. Oh. And then we're going to bring ourselves on back and release the leg. We're done with the strap for now. You might want it later, but for now we're done. And then we're going to give that leg a little rinse, and then stick it up in the air and shake it. Just shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it. Try to get the toes to go flippy floppy. One of the things I think is really interesting for me is it's much easier for me to get my ankle joint and my toe joint to get involved in the flippy flappiness on the right side. So I finally got it relaxed on the left side. But it was tough. It was not easy to get that sort of sensation. It wants to hold on more. Okay, so giving that leg a moment, I'm going to take the pillows out all together, stretch out both legs, and then letting myself relax. I want to feel how that went. And oh, they feel pretty close to even. Both sides, you know, before only one hip felt like it was kind of melting down. This now, both of them feel nice and soft. So that's delightful. Okay, now you can leave your legs stretched all the way out. You can put your feet on the floor like this. Or you can, if you want to, you can put the pillows underneath your knees and let your legs stay relaxed with the pillows. Now I'm going to do this kind of bridge shape, and I'm going to clear a little bit of space around me and make sure I can reach my arms over my head relatively comfortably. Okay, so I'm a little close to this piece of furniture, so I'm just going to wiggle down my mat a little bit so I have a little bit more room. Okay, so if you can extend your arms more or less comfortably over your head, you're going to be all right. Switch this way. Okay, now we're going to do a movement with the arms, and we're just going to do the arms, right? So we're going to take the arms up, and then as we're coming up, you're going to reach a little more, go as high up over your head as you can go, all the way to the point where the arms touch the ground, okay? Or your thumbs touch the ground, whatever the case may be. And then you're going to bring them on back. Stretch, 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 stretch. When they get to the sides, we're going to let them relax, okay? Take a big breath. Let go with an ah. Okay, we're going to do it again. So we're going to recruit the arms, reach down, and we're going to stretch. This whole range of motion, my palms are facing each other. Right there, I'm reaching a little bit differently because now I've got a different range of motion, stretching a little bit more. Keep reaching, keep reaching. If you get a pinchy sensation, stop there and come back. So stretch, oh, stretch, stretch, stretch. You might find some places in your arms while you're doing this that are actually a little bit weak, or muscles that might have been overcompensating for other muscle. So we're just going to let the arms relax, take a nice big breath. Let go within. Okay, we're going to do it twice more. So reach out through your arms and start to bring them up. And again, you're stretching. So for me, I can feel more pec in this range of motion. Now my shoulders are taking over a little differently. There's a spot right here on my right shoulder where that scar tissue lives that makes it a little bit more challenging for that to stay smooth. And you might notice different things, right? So right there, I can feel muscles that have to compensate for the injury I once had. And then keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Oh, and then relax the arms. Shoulders are tricky places. There's so much complexity to the way our bodies work that, like you want to work with the range of motion you've got today. Your range of motion might increase over time. So keep on stretching, keep on stretching, keep on stretching. We're reaching. We're just trying to give ourselves lots of length as we move through this range of motion of just picking the arms up over the head. Come on back when it's time to come back. Keep reaching, keep reaching, keep reaching, keep reaching. And then all the way, we're going to keep reaching. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. As soon as the pinkies hit the ground, then let your arms relax, okay? And then you could do a little shake with the arms. So you're going to stick one arm up, and we're going to shake it. And shake it, like literally flip the fingers around. Let the fingers get super relaxed. Shake it a little slower. Shake it faster. Keep shaking it. We're going to do like another 30 seconds of shaking. Doesn't have to be the same rhythm or the same pattern. Okay, one more. Big breath, big, let your arm go. Now, just for fun, see how both arms feel. I love the shaking. I did not think I would like it, and the time that I did this in a workshop, I took a workshop, and this is what we did for the first like 20 minutes. We just shook things, and I was pretty skeptical. But do your other arm, so you're going to stick the other arm up, and you're going to start shaking it. And now that I've done it, and done it a few times in my life, this shaking thing's just now become kind of fun and part of the way I practice in general. And some days, like if I only have a couple minutes, sometimes all I'll do is shake. So again, like some bigger shakes, some, little faster, twitchier shakes. Like try to get the whole upper arm bone involved. I find it easier to shake my right arm than my left arm. So I find myself directing my left arm more from my forearm than from my upper arm. So if I try to get my upper arm to get recruited, that can be interesting. Okay, so we got about 15 more seconds, 2 more breaths. Big inhale. And then let that arm fall to the ground. That is so good. Alright, I'm going to do a little windshield wipers just because it feels nice. Let my shoulders relax for a second before we do the next little shoulder bit. We're doing some shoulder stuff today, y'all. I've been feeling the need for shoulders. Alright, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to bring your arms up so that they're straight out in front of you, palms towards each other. You're going to drop your arms. Now, whatever arm wound up on top, in my case, my right arm wound up on top. Okay, cool, I'm doing my right arm first. If it was your left arm, that's fine too. So I'm going to grab my right upper arm with my left hand, okay? And I'm going to pull this arm across, and then I'm going to resist with my body. So I'm trying to let my body get heavy as I pull that arm across, and then I'm going to let it go. I'm not holding onto my elbow joint. I'm not holding my lower arm. I'm really trying to hold onto the upper arm as best I can, even if you have to grab fabric, as long as your clothes are sturdy and you won't tear them off your body. Then use that. But if you can't, I mean, you could even use this like fleshy part of the back of your arm. Grab that thing and pull it across. And then you're pulling with your arm, and your whole rest of your torso is stretching back into the floor. Okay, so I'm trying to heavy up my body. And then we're going to come back. Rinse that out. We're going to do it one more time. So grab that upper arm, pull it across your body. You might have to kind of fiddle with how far down or up the arm goes. I try to find the spot between my chin and my chest, and then pull that arm across and heavy up your upper back, right? Your upper back's trying to turn into wet sand and melt back down toward the floor. And you're holding onto your arm. Okay, come on back. And then we're just going to give that arm a little rinse. I like to do some little movements. Okay, Now when you set that arm down on the floor and then set the other arm down beside it, is there a difference? So for me, the difference is actually in the side of my neck and in my upper shoulder. And it feels like the arm I just did is actually lower down my back, and I have a longer neck. It's probably not true, but it feels that way, right? So if I were to look at myself in the mirror, it probably would be different. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. Put my arms up, bend at the elbow. I'm going to grab this upper arm with my other hand, and I'm going to pull myself across, let my upper back get heavy, and then bring myself back, okay? A little pull across, upper back gets heavy. Oh, that feels good. Come back. I'm not sure that sounds like it feels good, but it really does. Okay, pull yourself across, upper back gets heavy, heavy, heavy. And then come on back. And then one more time, we're going to pull across, let your upper back get heavy. I'm holding this one just a little bit longer because it's the last one. And then coming on back, and then let that arm rinse out. And then setting the arms down, just notice. that's delightful. Okay. So that is, oh, we got one more. We got one more to do while we're laying down, but we're going to lay on our side. So that's the last one we're going to do on our back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pillow, because that will be helpful. And you have a blanket, you can use a blanket. So I'm going to lay on my side, and I'm just going to put this pillow under my head so I've got something to work with. Now, my bottom arm goes straight out in front, and then my top arm goes straight out onto there. Okay, so this is the start. I'm going to back up a little bit so you can see me a little easier. I might be off the frame a bit. Okay. So I'm laying on my side, one arm stretched straight out in front, the other arm on top of that arm. Now, your legs can be straight or bent so that you stay stable. I bend mine a little bit. Now, the arm that's on top is the working arm. The arm that's on the bottom is for steadiness. Okay, so the arm that's on top is going to start to move towards the top of your head, straight up over your ear. So you're going to take that arm and go up so that the upper part of your arm covers your ear and reaches up over the top of your head, and then keep going in an arch all the way around until your hand is shoulder height behind you, and then bring it straight back. Okay, so the arm goes up, so it's almost like you're drawing a rainbow with your fingertips over your head, and then bring it straight back across. Okay, so up over your ear like a big rainbow. When you get to shoulder height or chest height, come on back to the beginning. 3 more times. Up, over, stretch through that arm. Oh, and then come back. Up and over, stretch through that arm. Oh, and then come back. Oh, yogis, that's good. We're going to do it one more time. Stretch up and over. Oh, reach. And I'm not rolling onto my back, right? I'm not twisting. I'm staying more or less stable laying on my side, but giving myself a chance to really stretch out that chest and the front of the part of the shoulder. Okay, so now that you're back to the center, you can give that arm a little movement, and then we're basically just going to roll over and do the other side. Okay. Now when I get onto my back, for just a second, I just like to wiggle. Little windshield wipers. Shake out that arm I was just doing. And then come on to the other side. All right, so head on the pillow or blanket, whatever you're using. Now the arm that you were just using to work is on the bottom, and that's your stabilizing arm, and your knees might be bent or your legs might be straight. Just make sure you're stable so your hips nice and steady. And then this other arm rests on top, okay? So going upwards, up towards the ear, drawing a big arc all the way around. And again, I'm not rolling onto the floor with my back because I want this kind of resistance of that stretch. And then I'm going to come straight back across to my hand. So up and over, and there's nothing wrong with adding the twist. If you want to add a little bit more of a twist, you can, but just kind of mostly staying stable, okay? So reaching out, because I like this point right here where I get to really get into this pectoralis muscles on my chest. And then up. Oh, and this shoulder might have the same sensations. The range of motion might be a little more challenging. Oh, reaching, 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 reaching. Coming across. Okay, we got 3 more, I think. Reach it out. Oh, come across. Going over the head, reach. Oh, come across. And then one more time, going up. And again, you're working with the range of motion that seems appropriate to you. If anything feels sore or tender, don't go that far. Okay. So then I'm done here. I'm going to roll back onto my back briefly. Just so I can relax that shoulder all the way down. Give that arm a little jiggle. Oh, and take a moment and just notice. Now, yogis, we're going to sit up. But you might want to give yourself one more little hug and a back massage, and maybe even a little happy baby while we're here. Oh. And then I'm going to roll to my side to sit up. And if you're in the mood to rock yourself up, you can do that instead. Okay. So, hopefully, that was, left you with, some relaxed shoulders and some relatively relaxed hips. So we're just going to take our practice that we were just doing, and we're going to kind of add a little bit of the spine work to it. Okay. by doing some seated bending. So I'm starting sitting up, and I've got my legs out in a V. And I do not have my legs as wide apart as they can possibly go. Okay, I've got them wide, but not all the way to the extreme edges of my range of motion. Then I tilt forward and I just rock each sit bone out from underneath me a little bit so that I get right onto the tippy tips of the bones. Now my pelvis is oriented in such a way, the bone structure of my hips are such that when I do this, I sit up and my pelvis tends to lean slightly forward like it does when I'm standing up, and my spine is neutral and straight. Some people's genetics are such that their pelvis will actually lean backwards, right? So the belly button feels like it's falling into the body and the back of the pelvis falling backward. So there's a couple of ways you can work with that. You can take a couple pillows, bend your knees, put the pillows under the knees. Just having bent knees might give you the opportunity to get your pelvis to tilt forward a little bit. Okay, so you can get up on the tips of the bones and you can feel a little more neutral in your spine. Some people will need to sit up on the edge of a blanket. And the way that you want to sit on the blanket is you don't want to sit in the blanket on the middle of the blanket, but you're going to sit so that your sit bones, the little bony protrusions at the bottom of your pelvis, sit right on the edge of the blanket so that it feels like the rest of you falls off the edge, and that's what you're going for, okay? So no matter what, I've got these pillows underneath me and this is working pretty great, so I'm going to stay with this. So we're going to pause and we're going to take a moment and just fold the pelvis forward and check things out, okay? So if it feels like everything's going to be okay in your low back, excellent. So we're going to start with the center. You're going to like walk your hands out. If you've got some props and you want to put your elbows on blocks or something like that, you can. Otherwise, you're just going to let yourself kind of lean forward into this wide angle forward bend. And so we've got a little stretch going on through the pelvis, through the inner thighs maybe. Maybe your elbows are resting on the floor. Maybe your forehead's resting on the floor. Maybe you're like me and that's ridiculous. The floor is really too far away for those kinds of shenanigans. All right, so we just got 2 more breaths with this guy, right? And so I'm letting my pelvis come forward and mostly keeping my back relatively neutral. In a few moments, we might let the back get rounder. But for now, we're going to go a little more on the neutral side. Good morning, Nutmeg. Okay, so then we're coming up. Nice big inhale. And now you're going to take one knee and bend the knee, still leaving the thighs more or less kind of in a V shape. And then we're going to turn towards the bent knee. So one leg is straight, one leg is bent, thighs are a little bit apart from one another, and then turn a little towards the bent knee because we're going to side bend over the leg that's long and straight, okay? So you can put your elbow on your thigh. You could put your elbow on the floor. Your elbow may not touch either of those 2 places. And then you're going to reach that opposite arm, if you care to, up over your ear. If you'd rather, you can take your arm and wrap it behind your back and let your shoulder kind of fall a little bit more away from the side of your head or your ear. Both are great. It just depends on where that you need that extra attention. So when the arm is up over the ear, for me, it's a little bit more through the side waist. I get a little bit more sensation like under the armpit and the upper back. There's some muscles right there called serratus anterior, maybe latissimus a little bit too. So I'm feeling that. If my arm is behind my back, this becomes a story about my neck, which is lovely. So we're going to take 2 more breaths of whatever it is that you're up to. Okay, now using your arm, if you care to, you're going to hug in your side waist, and then you're going to come all the way up, kind of use the arm to help bring you up. And then you can rinse out your neck. And then rinse out your shoulders a little bit. Give your spine a little love. We're not going into the other side right away because we want to let the fluid in the spine kind of go into a neutral position. So when we do things to our discs, like make them bend sideways or bend forward or bend backward, there's a little bit of movement of the fluid in the disc to accommodate that. Okay, so my spine now feels like it's back to neutral, so I'm ready to do my other side. So I'm going to bend my opposite knee, straighten out the leg that was bent, turn just a little bit towards the bent knee now with my torso, so it's easier to side bend without causing any trouble for my low back. And then I might stretch my arm over my ear. I might keep my hand resting around my back. I like to do a little bit of both. because it feels nice to kind of get this upper back stretch, but if that's too much torque, it's going to be better to have your arm out of the way. Okay, so we're going to take 2 more breaths. Last one. Now with your exhale, feel yourself draw in the sides of your waist. Use your arm for support to help you come out. And then once you're up, you can rinse out your neck a little bit. You can rinse out your arms. You can give yourself little movements in your spine. Oh, I like coming out of a side stretch. It feels really nice. There's a lot of kind of, it almost feels like my shoulder blades go back down my back where they belong and my neck gets longer. I have a very short neck, so anything that makes my neck feel longer is okay by me. All right, so we're going to bring the soles of the feet together, and the knees open, and then you're going to rock your sit bones back behind you as you start to fold forward. So I rock side to side, fold a little bit. Side to side, fold a little bit. Side to side, fold a little bit until I'm as far folded as I can get. Now you can leave your legs in this kind of big, wide diamond, or they can be out straight, okay? So I've got mine like a butterfly kind of shape, but a little bit bigger, like a diamond instead of tight. And this becomes the tortoise pose, okay? So the full version of the tortoise, you put your arms underneath your legs and then you wrap them around a little bit towards the back. For this version, I'm leaving my arms free of that impingement, but if you want to go for it, you can take the arms under the legs and either grab hold of your ankles, that's more comfortable for me, or you can let them rest out wide, and then let the body round over in the back. So we're getting this rounded upper back. We're going to take 2 more big breaths. Now inhale yourself up just a little bit and pick one leg up off your arm and free that arm. Then pick the other leg up off your arm, free that arm, and then curl yourself up the rest of the way, all the way up until you're tall. Now, I like that kind of more gentle version of the tortoise. The ones that look a little more extreme are quite intense on the spine and on the body. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to end our practice with a little bit of cat-cow, a little bit of cobra, sphinxy work, and then we're going to do a little inversion before we do shavasana. Okay, so we've got a little bit of cat-cow, so you can come up to all fours. And we're going to just start moving the spine just because we're going to transition. It's like a transition zone between the more severe back bends of the cobra and the sphinx and that really rounded forward bend we were just doing. There's, some people have rules about what you can and can't do with your body in terms of, can you go from a forward bend to a back bend? Can you go from a side bend to a back bend? Or whatever they might be. Should you put a twist in the middle? And there's a lot of rules, and I say experiment with all the rules and then write your own. But I definitely find that if I have a little transition pose, it helps. Okay, so we're going to bring ourselves down onto the belly when you're ready. If you want a couple more cats, do that. And then once you get here, you're going to plant your palms about chest height, okay? So the palm is on the floor, the fingers are spread out, and you've got a good press down, because we're going to draw the elbows backwards when we lift. And so right now my elbows stick out to the side, and when I lift I'm going to hug them towards the middle, and try to draw my shoulder blades like I'm trying to slide them in my back pockets, okay? So it helps to have a good firm position of the hand so that I can work with the ground to do that. Now, before I even start my cobras, I'm going to do some stuff with the legs. So I'm going to rest my forehead on the floor in a moment, but it's easier for me to talk when it's not there. So you're going to rest your forehead on the floor, and then you're going to lift one leg, right leg or left, and stretch it out and put it back down, okay? Lift the opposite leg, stretch it out, put it back down. We're going to do that 3 times on each side. First leg, reach down. Second leg, reach down. One more time. First leg, reach down. Second leg, reach down. Now, try to feel the front of your hip really pressing into the floor. Press your legs into the ground. Stretch them back longer. Inhale, lift yourself into cobra. Now, I'm not pushing with my hands. I'm lifting with my back muscles, but now my hands push into the floor and the elbows draw back, okay? And then come on back down, rest your forehead on the ground, relax your legs. Now, energize the legs, energize your glutes, lift, pull back on the elbows, and then come on back down. Okay, we're gonna do it 3 more times. So lift, reach through the legs, pull those elbows back a little bit, relax your neck, come on back down. Legs, oh, energize that back. Maybe you can get a little higher off the floor now with just your back muscles. And then come on back down, maybe not. Last one. So we're reaching through the legs, really plant the tops of the thighs. Now slide your elbows underneath you. So wherever you lifted yourself to, that's your Sphinx. So put your elbows on the ground. Now I like my elbows a little forward of my shoulder and slightly in so that I can relax my upper back a little bit more. Once I have the hair out of my mouth, it'll be easier for me to talk. Now I'm tucking my toes under and I'm gonna stretch each leg back just a little bit. I like the toe tuck because I can really press down into the front of my hip. So I'm trying to let my hip flexors relax here. And one of the ways they do that, right, is the glute reacts. And if you can feel it, see if you can feel your glute pulling diagonally down. So rather than squeezing together, can you energize the glute and pull diagonally down to anchor the front of the hip to the ground? And then you can reach back through your feet. We're going to take 2 more breaths here. All right, so we're going to try to leave the elbows on the ground. We're going to lift one leg up and bring it back down. Lift the other leg up. They're not going to go as high, but we want to really fire up these glute muscles. Lift, try to feel that glute fire up. Pull it down at the diagonal. Opposite leg, feel that glute fire. Come on down. First leg, one more time. Feel that glute. Lengthen that leg. Maybe keep it in the air 1 more second. And then bring it down. And then lift that opposite leg. Fire that glute. Reach through the leg. Try to draw it at the diagonal toward the ground. And then put it back down. So now windshield wiper your legs a little bit. Oh, that feels so nice. And you can take your upper body down. Oh. All right, so this is where you're going to have to make some decisions about your inversion practice. So the question you have to ask yourself is, do I want to do legs over my couch and or chair? Do I want to do a supported bridge pose? Maybe you have a yoga block or a pillow. You can put that under your hips. Or do I just want to lay on my back and stick my legs in the air? Because that works, y'all. So I'm going to go for legs over the chair. In this case, I have a beanbag chair next to me, and I'm going to put my legs on that. So to do that, I'm going to remove this blanket that I had earlier for a different pose. And I'm going to put a bigger, flatter blanket in place. So I have a little bit of an elevation in my hip. So that goes right in front of my chair. And I've got a couple of pillows here because it's the distance between the floor and the top of this is a little shorter than my thighs. So by adding a couple of pillows, I get the spacing right so my knees rest over those. Okay, so this is tricky, especially the first time you do it, but it's not that crazy. So you're going to sit really close to the couch or really close to the chair and get right on up in here. So you're going to lean to your side and wiggle. Lean to your side and wiggle until you've got both your butt cheeks resting on that chair or as close to the chair as you can get. And then after I get my hair in my mouth, I'm going to put my shoulder on the floor and I'm going to roll my legs up onto the couch or the chair, in this case a chair. And then I might need to do like a little bit of caterpillar to get myself in place or adjust the blanket slightly. Okay, so then I'm just going to let my legs rest like this. Now if you're using a block, you put the block underneath your hips and then you can suspend your legs straight up in the air. That's your supported shoulder stand. Or if you would rather do it a different way, you can just let your legs rest on the floor. And if you don't have a block, you can do it with your pelvis just resting on the floor. Just stick your legs up. So anytime we get the legs above the head, we get a couple of benefits. So first benefit is the lymph from our legs is easier to drain down towards the big ducts in the groins. And the little shaking thing that we did is the reason largely that it feels good is because it helps with that same thing. Okay, so we're getting a little bit of lymphatic flow back to where the big ducts are near the groins and in the back of the knees and places where normally we have to jump around a lot, move a lot, and being stuck at home a little bit more, maybe not going out as much, might make it a little harder for that lymph to stay moving about. It also lowers the blood pressure a little bit, so if we've had slightly elevated blood pressure from stress, it might be helpful. And then one of the really interesting benefits is it seems to lower the amount of stress hormone that's in our bloodstream. And the Western world hasn't done those studies. They've done some studies in India, but they're very promising and interesting. And so at this point, my suggestion to you is launch your own experiment. Become an amateur scientist and see if when you do things like putting your legs up on the couch or your legs up on the wall or your legs up in the air for a period of time every day, do you feel like you feel a little more relaxed when you're done? Maybe yoga in general is the thing that's working and not just the inversion. So we're going to stay here for about another minute and a half. Let yourself concentrate on the breath. From here we're going into a Shavasana. We're going to stay in Shavasana for a while. So this is our kind of chance to get that little bit of extra shimmy, a little bit of extra movement. You could circle your ankles again. Or it's the start of letting our bodies really settle, right? So if you are always it's a little difficult to stay still for Shavasana, you could kind of practice getting into that space now. Calming your mind, concentrating on your breath. All right, yogis, so we're going to take 2 more breaths. Now we're coming out of this pose really slow. So the first thing you're going to do is you're just going to bend your knees. So if your legs have been straight all the way up, just bend your knees, bring them into your chest. If you're on your couch, bring your legs in towards your chest. And then we're just going to give ourselves like a little bit of a moment. Now if you've got a block under your hips, put your feet back down, take the block out before you do this next bit, okay? Because then we're going to hug the legs in and rock back and forth on the sacrum. And I like to do a little bit of a circle. And then you're going to roll to your side so that you can reorganize yourself for Shavasana. Now we're going to lay in Shavasana for a little over 10 minutes, right on? So take your time to put pillows or blankets under or over you so that you'll be warm enough. I'm going to organize these singing bowls. And then I'm going to move you a little closer to me so that hopefully the mic will pick it up a little better. Okay. But while I'm doing that, you guys are just getting yourselves settled into your final relaxation shape. So you lay down on your back so that you can relax. If you need your knees bent, put some props underneath you, pillows. Each of these bowls, in theory, corresponds to a different chakra. And so you might, as you're hanging out listening to the bowls, see if you feel the sensation or the vibration of the sound in different parts of your body. So get yourselves all settled in. take a moment just to notice that your body is breathing. When the next breath begins to come along, take that breath in so deep you can feel it all the way to your toes. Let it go with a big ah. And then start by just wiggling your fingers and toes. Stretch out your hands and your feet so that the toes and fingers are as far away as you can get them. And then relax them. Do some little movements in your wrist and ankle joints. And as you're ready, you can start to stretch out the rest of your body, maybe doing little banana shapes on the floor, or stretching out like a giant starfish. When you're done stretching, you can curl up in a little ball, give your favorite yogi a hug and a back massage for the road. Or maybe you're just gonna stay in that position for the rest of the morning. And you're not ready to leave Shavasana yet, and in that case, I don't blame you. But if you do decide that you're ready, you can bring yourself up to a seated position. I'm getting my Namaste warmed up for you, yogis. And then once you join me here, we're going to take a nice big breath together. And a big deep sigh. And Namaste.